My dad used to call me his little shadow, but now I was just a ghost in my own home. By 16, I'd learned the hard way that love could be replaced faster than a light bulb. It started 2 years ago, when Mom's car accident left a hole in our lives no one could fill. Dad, Tom, was never the same after that. He used to be the guy who'd sneak me extra ice cream and tell dumb jokes to make me laugh. But grief hollowed him out, and within a year, he was dating Karen. 6 months later, they were married and Karen moved in with her 2 kids, Mia and Ethan, turning our quiet house into a battlefield. I wasn't ready for a new family, but Dad said we needed to move forward. I tried, I swear. But Karen had other plans. First, it was subtle. Karen rearranged Mom's kitchen, tossing out her old recipe cards like they were junk. She'd smirk when I mentioned Mom, saying, "We're your family now, Ellie. Let's focus on the present." Her kids, Mia 10 and Ethan 8, followed her lead. They'd hog the living room, blasting their shows on the TV Mom and I used to watch together. If I asked to change the channel, Karen would snap, "Don't be selfish, Ellie. They're younger." Dad would just nod, avoiding my eyes. I started feeling like a tenant in my own house, tiptoeing around to avoid Karen's sharp tongue. The mouthwash grew like a slow poison. Karen started suggesting I do more chores to earn my keep. I was already pulling my weight, but soon I was scrubbing dishes, folding Mia and Ethan's laundry, and cleaning their rooms while they played video games. If I pushed back, Karen would sigh dramatically to Dad. "Tom, she's so ungrateful. I'm trying to make us a family." Dad would mumble, "Just help out, Ellie." And I'd bite my tongue until it bled. I missed the days when Dad and I would talk for hours about nothing. Now he barely looked at me. Karen's favoritism was blatant. She'd shower Mia and Ethan with new clothes, toys, even a fancy gaming console, while I got hand-me-downs and a lecture about budgeting. When I asked for art supplies, me one escape since Mom died, Karen scoffed. "We can't afford luxuries, Ellie." That same week she bought Mia a new bike. Dad didn't say a word. I started keeping a sketchbook hidden under my bed, drawing Mom's face from memory to keep her close. It was the only thing that felt like mine anymore. School became my sanctuary, but even that wasn't safe. Karen insisted I babysit Mia and Ethan after class, so I had to quit art club. My grades slipped because I was too tired from playing live-in maid. My best friend, Sarah, noticed I was withdrawing and tried to get me to open up, but I was too ashamed to admit how bad things were. I kept thinking, if I'm good enough, Dad will notice. He'll fix this. But he didn't. He was too busy playing perfect husband to Karen and perfect dad to her kids. The breaking point came on my 16th birthday. I'd hoped Dad would remember our tradition pancakes and a day at the park, just us. Instead, Karen planned a family outing to an amusement park I hated. I begged Dad to do something low-key, but he said, "Karen worked hard on this, Ellie. Don't ruin it." At the park, I was stuck watching Mia and Ethan while Karen and Dad rode roller coasters. When we got home, I found a small, poorly wrapped gift on my beta cheap notebook from Karen with a sticky note. "For your little drawings." No card, no cake, no acknowledgement from Dad. That night, I cried myself to sleep, clutching Mom's old scarf. The next week, I overheard Karen talking to Dad in the kitchen. "Ellie's so moody, Tom. Maybe she'd be happier somewhere else. My kids need stability." My heart stopped. Was she trying to get rid of me? Dad's silence was worse than anything he could have said. I waited for him to defend me, to say I was his daughter, his priority. But all he muttered was, "Let's talk about this later." I realized then, I was losing him and he wasn't fighting to keep me. The tension in the house became suffocating. Karen's comments got bolder. "You're so much like your mom, Ellie, always causing trouble," she'd say, her smile like a knife. Mia and Ethan started mimicking her, leaving my stuff in disarray or accidentally breaking my things. Once, Ethan spilled juice on my sketchbook, ruining months of drawings. When I yelled, Karen grounded me for overreacting. Dad just sighed and said, "Try to get along." I felt like I was drowning, and no one cared enough to throw me a rope. I started planning my escape. I'd been saving every penny from my part-time job at the local diner, hiding the cash in a sock under my mattress. I confided in Sarah, who offered me a place to stay, but I didn't want to burden her family. I needed to stand on my own. I researched bus tickets and cheap apartments, dreaming of a place where I could breathe again. Every night I'd lie awake, imagining a life where I wasn't invisible. The chow trio hit one rainy evening in October. Karen had thrown out Mom's old cookbook, the one with her handwritten notes in the margins. I found it in the trash, soaked and torn. I confronted Karen, my voice shaking. This was my mom's. How could you? She rolled her eyes. It was clutter, Ellie. You need to let go. I turned to Dad, desperate. Say something. This is Mom's. He looked away, muttering, Karen's right. We need to move on. Something in me snapped. I grabbed the cookbook, stormed to my room, and packed my backpack with essentials clothes, my sketchbook, Mom's scarf, and my savings. I was done begging for a place in a family that didn't want me. I slipped out at midnight, the rain masking my footsteps. I left a note on my bed. I'm not your problem anymore. Goodbye. My heart pounded as I walked to the bus station, fear and freedom warring inside me. I bought a ticket to a small town a few hours away, where I'd found a cheap room to rent. As the bus pulled away, I looked back at the life I was leaving behind, wondering if Dad would even care. The first few weeks were brutal. I got a job at a cafe, barely making enough to cover rent and food. I was lonely, scared, and haunted by the thought that I'd made a mistake. But I kept Mom's scarf on my pillow, a reminder of why I left. I started drawing again, pouring my pain into my sketches. Slowly I built a routine, made friends at work, and felt like I was reclaiming myself. Back home things unraveled. Sarah told me Dad was a wreck, calling her to ask if I was okay. Karen apparently hadn't expected me to actually leave. Without me as her punching bag, her true colors started showing. She snapped at Dad constantly, and Mia and Ethan, spoiled by her indulgence, became unmanageable. Dad found my note and finally realized how far things had gone. He tried calling, but I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. Karen's perfect facade cracked. Neighbors started whispering about her tantrums, how she'd yell at Dad in the driveway. Mia and Ethan's behavior got them in trouble at school, and Karen's attempts to blame me fell flat. I wasn't there to take the fall anymore. Dad started questioning her, seeing the chaos she'd brought into our home. Sarah said he found Mom's cookbook in the trash and kept it on his nightstand. A silent apology I wasn't ready to hear. One day I got a letter from Dad. It was short, written in his messy scrawl. Ellie, I failed you. I'm so sorry. Please come home. I stared at it for hours, torn between anger and longing. Karen's influence had cost me my home, my dad, my sense of belonging. But running away had given me something back, me strength, my voice. I wasn't the scared girl who'd left anymore. I wrote back, I'm not ready. You let me go. Now you have to fix what's broken. I mailed it, my hands shaking, knowing it was the first step toward something, forgiveness maybe, but not forgetting. Months passed, and I heard through Sarah that Karen's grip on Dad was slipping. He'd started therapy, trying to understand how he'd let his daughter slip away. Karen, meanwhile, was spiraling. Her kid's behavior was out of control, and Dad was done enabling her. He moved out, taking Mom's cookbook with him, and filed for divorce. The perfect family Karen had built was crumbling, and I couldn't help but feel a bitter satisfaction. She'd pushed me out, thinking I was the weak link, but I'd survived. She hadn't. I kept building my life, one small victory at a time. I enrolled in community college, majoring in art, something Mom would have loved. I wasn't ready to see Dad yet, but I kept his letter, a reminder that regret comes too late for some. Karen's actions had torn us apart, but they'd also taught me I didn't need anyone's permission to be enough. I was my own home now, and no one could take that away. I found my footing in that small town, where the air smelled of pine and second chances. The cafe job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and my coworkers, a mix of dreamers and drifters, became my makeshift family. There was Lila, the manager, who'd slip me extra shifts when rent was due, and Jake, a barista with a crooked smile who'd sketch with me on slow afternoons. They didn't know my whole story, but they saw the weight I carried and didn't pry. For the first time in years, I felt seen without having to beg for it. My tiny apartment was a single room with peeling wallpaper and a leaky faucet, but it was mine. I hung Mom's scarf on the wall like a banner, a reminder of who I was before Karen's shadow loomed over my life. I filled my sketchbook with new drawings, portraits of strangers at the cafe, landscapes of the town, and sometimes Mom's face, softer now, less like a wound. Art became my anchor, pulling me back from the edge of doubt. I'd left home to survive, but I was learning to live. Back in my old town, the fallout from my departure was rippling. Sarah kept me updated, her texts a lifeline to the life I'd left behind. Dad was unraveling, she said. He'd started drinking again, something he hadn't done since Mom died. He'd call Sarah late at night, asking if I was safe, if I hated him. I didn't hate him, not exactly. I hated the version of him that let Karen erase me, the version that chose peace over his own daughter. But love doesn't vanish, even when it hurts. I just wasn't ready to face him. Karen, meanwhile, was losing her grip. Without me to scapegoat, her perfect family act was crumbling. Mia and Ethan, spoiled by her indulgence, were spiraling. Mia got caught shoplifting at the mall, and Ethan was suspended for bullying a classmate. Karen tried to spin it, telling neighbors I'd been a bad influence before I left, but no one bought it. The truth was plain. Her parenting was a house of cards, and my absence had knocked it down. Dad, finally seeing her for what she was, started pushing back. Sarah said he'd found Mom's cookbook in his room and cried over it, realizing how much he'd let slip away. The neighborhood was buzzing with gossip. Karen's tantrums were public now, yelling at Dad in the driveway, snapping at delivery drivers, even berating Mia in front of her friends. People who'd once called her charming now whispered about her temper. She'd built her throne on control, but without me to manipulate, she was flailing. Dad moved out to a small apartment, taking Mom's cookbook and a few of my old drawings he found in the attic. Sarah sent me a picture of him at a coffee shop, looking older than his 42 years, staring at one of my sketches like it was a lifeline. I kept Dad's letter in a drawer, rereading it when I felt weak. "I failed you," he'd written, and those words burned. Part of me wanted to run back, to hug him and pretend we could rewind. But I'd fought too hard for my independence to throw it away. I wrote him back once, a short note. "I'm safe. I'm building something. You need to fix yourself first." I didn't know if he'd understand, but it was all I could offer. Months turned into a year. I turned 17 in my little apartment, celebrating with a cupcake from the cafe and a call from Sarah. I was taking art classes at the community college now, saving every extra dollar for supplies. My professor, Ms. Carter, saw something in my work and pushed me to enter a local art contest. I submitted a paisea charcoal drawing of a girl standing in a storm, her face half hidden by a scarf. It was me, but it was also every kid who'd ever felt pushed out. To my shock, I won first place. The prize was small, $200, but the validation felt like a fortune. For the first time, I believed I could be more than a ghost. Back home, Karen's world was imploding. Dad's therapy had opened his eyes, and he was done enabling her. He filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, but Sarah said it was more than that. He'd told his therapist about the cookbook incident, about how Karen had thrown out Mom's memory without a second thought. The therapist helped him see how he'd let Karen's control override his duty to me. He started reaching out to old friends, rebuilding the life he'd had before Karen. He even contacted Mom's sister, Aunt Clara, who'd been estranged since the wedding. Clara was furious when she heard I'd run away, and she sent me a long email offering to visit. I wasn't ready, but I kept her number. Karen, desperate to save face, tried to spin the divorce as Dad's fault. She posted on social media about being a single mom doing her best. But the neighbors weren't fooled. Mia and Ethan's behavior was a public embarrassment. Now Ethan got caught vandalizing a park, and Mia was failing half her classes. Karen's attempts to discipline them fell flat. They'd learned her entitlement, not her control. The house, once a symbol of her perfect family, was falling apart. Leaky pipes, overgrown lawn, and a for sale sign out front. Karen couldn't afford it alone, and Dad wasn't paying for her mistakes anymore. One evening, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. It was Dad, his voice shaky. "Ellie, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know I'm trying. I'm so sorry." I listened, my throat tight, as he told me about the divorce, about therapy, about how he kept Mom's cookbook on his kitchen counter like a shrine. He said he'd found an old photo of us at the park, from one of our pancake days, and it was framed in his new place. "I want to be your dad again," he said. "If you'll let me." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to believe him, but trust is a fragile thing, and mine was still in pieces. "I need time," I told him. "But don't stop trying." He promised he wouldn't, and for the first time I felt a flicker of hope. Not for the past, but for something new. Karen's reckoning came in waves. Without Dad's support, her lifestyle crumbled. She moved to a smaller apartment, downsizing her perfect life. Mia and Ethan were sent to live with their dad for a while, and Karen was alone, her social media silent. Sarah said the neighbors pitied her but didn't help. Her bridges were burned. I didn't wish her pain, but I couldn't deny the justice in it. She tried to erase me, to build her family on my exclusion, and now she was the one left out. I kept growing. My art was gaining attention, and Ms. Carter connected me with a gallery owner who wanted to feature my work in a local show. I poured everything into it, my pain, my strength, my hope. The show was small, but it felt like a triumph. Lila and Jake came, cheering like I'd won an Oscar. I sent Dad an invitation, not expecting him to show. But he did, standing quietly in the back, holding a bouquet of daisies, Mom's favorite. He didn't push, didn't ask for forgiveness. He just said, "I'm proud of you, Ellie." I nodded, tears in my eyes, and let him hug me. It wasn't a fix, but it was a start. 2 years after I ran away, I was 18, living a life I'd built from scratch. Karen was a distant memory. Her influence reduced to a cautionary tale. Dad and I were talking again, slowly rebuilding. He'd rented a small house, and Mom's cookbook was on the table when I visited. We made her pancakes one morning, and for a moment it felt like the old days. But I wasn't that little girl anymore, and he wasn't that dad. We were something new, scarred but trying. My story isn't just my nights for anyone who's felt pushed out, invisible in their own life. Karen's actions broke a family, but they also showed me my own strength. I learned that home isn't a place or even a person. It's the courage to stand up for yourself, to walk away when you need to, and to build something better. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet triumph of surviving, of thriving despite those who tried to bury you. What do you think? Was I right to run, to demand better? Was Karen's downfall fair? Or did she deserve a chance to change? Share your thoughts. Show, do we balance family, loyalty, and standing up for what's right? Let's talk about the lines we draw and the prices we pay for them.